Hey guys, Chris again. So today we're going to talk about memberships, and there's a couple of things that we want to consider here, but especially how Momence defines a membership. So I've been using Obsidian, so let's see if it works out to kind of explain this better. So basically anything that was in that screen, either on-demand subscriptions, packages, or subscriptions, is considered a membership. That's how we think of that. Right, so anything here will be always considered a membership in Momence's eyes. So that gets a little confusing because most of us in this gym world think that a membership can only be recurring. But I'm here to tell you that Moments doesn't call it that, and it always kind of creates a little bit of friction when we discuss this. So for the time, moving forward, what we're going to do is just call them all memberships, because that's what they are in Moments. So what is the difference between these three things? During this video, we're not going to focus too much on on-demand subscriptions because that has a little bit more to it. Just having these pre-recorded classes, for example. We're just going to focus on subscriptions and packages. Just keep in mind that anything in an on-demand subscription is also considered a membership. So the way that I like to think about this is that in the subscriptions, there's actually quite a few things that we can have as a subscription. One thing you might want to consider is the one that we almost always choose, and that's going to be a recurring membership, so a recurring subscription in this case. And you can look at the icon actually, and you can see that it sort of implies that. It has this currency symbol with a recycling arrow. And so generally speaking, we are always going to put an auto-renewing membership into a subscription. But that is not always the case. And so that's why it bears a little bit more explaining. So we can also, in a subscription, create an unlimited option. So think monthly unlimited is a really typical one, or even something that doesn't auto-renew, which could be like a 1-week trial. So that 1-week trial, we would set up in the system as a subscription, not a package, because it doesn't have a limited set number. That doesn't mean that you obviously can't set limited numbers for subscriptions. It just means in this case, where it has this period of time from a start and an end, that's this interval, even if it doesn't auto-renew, we need to set it up as a subscription in the system. We can also create, in the subscriptions tab, linked subscriptions. And you probably already know, but in case you don't, you can actually add any subscription into another subscription, and it won't take the price or anything like that. You can also create a linked package. So it's not limited to just linked subscriptions. You can also create linked subscriptions and linked packages, and also linked on-demand subscriptions. So you can kind of group them all into one thing. And the difference is that you would never be able to create this master package. You can only include it into the subscriptions, which brings us to the master subscription. So a master subscription can include any membership within it. And you can have one of those, you can have multiple of those, and it doesn't really matter. You just can't have them as a master package. So think, maybe I had a monthly unlimited, and so maybe this was like, a special offer for my specific studio, and in that studio I offer massage. And then of course, what I can do is actually, bring that into this monthly unlimited and offer them, in this example, 2 appointment sessions for every month, and it will just renew every month. There's a lot more to it, and we can go into like some more specific use cases in other videos, but generally speaking, that's going to be how it works. Okay. So then we have from here, we also have our packages. And in packages, we can create, for example, just a multi-session pack, exactly what it sounds like. I have these class packs, and they're going to be, 5 classes that deplete, and then it just goes away, it stops after that, and then they have to buy another one. What makes Moments really cool is that actually also you can create this renewing package. So you can do that based on time. So it would be a duration and it would renew itself with this limited number of sessions. So for, let's think 5-pack, I want it to deplete on a certain time interval. Let's give it a maximum of 2 months. And then if they don't use all of those 5, we're going to also, just continue to renew that and pay and, get paid for it. But another thing that you could do with that is you can set it up so that it not only does this on the duration for 2 months, but it also does it when they deplete the 5. I'll show you a quick example of that really soon in the video, this video. For now, just know that we can create this auto refilling package. We can also create a linked package, which I just talked about, right? So we can have this, for example, 5-class pack in addition to some sort of subscription, and it's not going to consider all of the parameters for like pricing. It's only going to consider what it can be used for and how many credits is in that. And then I have here at the top, we can also apply it to a drop-in session. So like, why would you do that? Like, what's the point of doing a one-off session when we can obviously just create it from our class on the schedule? It costs a certain amount per the drop-in or the class template. And then we can also do that for any of the services that we have. Well, the main benefit of setting it up in subscriptions and packages is that we can sell it without them having to book. So it takes away that friction point. I don't always recommend just having these like one-off classes or appointments inside of the membership section. But if the use case is to set it up so that they can buy something, keep it until they're able to use it, they don't have to think about the scheduling at that point. You just get the money for it, right? Okay, so now let's jump in a little bit to an auto refilling package, because there are many things with linked subscriptions and linked packages and master subscriptions that we can cover a lot more in detail. But for now, this is kind of a good example of how to set up this auto refilling package that not a whole lot of people talk about. And I don't know how much is in the support articles and Moments, so we're just going to go over how to create one. So from the membership screen, we're going to, it doesn't really matter. We can jump to packages here and add new here, or of course we can just jump up to the top and add a new package. And let's call this auto 5-pack. And we can go through the description and the welcome message, which are all really useful to have. And especially if you know that you're going to have them pay as soon as they deplete or reach a duration, you probably want that to make that really clear in the description. So I highly recommend doing this. And then we're going to set the pricing. Let's call it, I don't know, let's call it 150 just to make it easy. And then we're not going to put any tax. We're not going to consider any of these options, but we are going to consider duration. Before I do that, let's jump to this section here, this auto renewal settings. If I toggle this on, and you can obviously read, this little blurb here, but if we have it toggled on, but we don't have a duration setting here, then these two options don't appear, right? They're just grayed out for us and I can't select them, which means currently, whenever somebody uses all 5, and we'll set the credit amount here, all 5 of those credits, then it's going to renew itself, always. But if we set a duration here, so I said in my example earlier that we set it for 2 months, that's a pretty reasonable amount of time for anybody to use all 5. So we're going to set this for 2 months, and then now you can see that we have this time interval and this credits run out or time interval buttons appear. So what's the difference? All right, so we can, be it's pretty easy. Like time interval is whenever this runs out, just 2 months, that we could, we're just going to renew it. We're going to auto renew that. And that's kind of weird because you can actually do the same thing in the subscription. So there doesn't really seem to be like a logical reason why you would choose that. And in fact, I've never chosen that personally. So what you could do instead is have it as credits run out or the time interval. So what does that mean? That means that whichever comes first. If they use 3 classes and then that 2-month mark hits, it's going to charge them the $150 again and renew that for them. If they take all 5 classes and it's only been a week, it's going to renew that again for them. So you have this balance of flexibility where it's flexible in terms of them having the 2 months to use up 5 packs, which, is actually kind of long, and you can spread that out. Maybe it's this benefit of you charging them only every 3 months. They can only afford that every 3 months. But you can pretty much guarantee that you're going to get at least $150 from that one client every month, and potentially more, depending on how well you nurture them, how often you get them to come. Then you can consider other things like upgrading their package or upgrading their subscription. So that's pretty easy. That's all you need to do. And to set that up is just have this auto refill toggle, the duration that you want, and then this credits run out or time interval. And these two are actually kind of new. So generally what most people have in their system is credits run out, and that's it. But you can set it for credits run out or time interval, which I would strongly recommend you do. You could also include a contract agreement just so you have it kind of set in stone, that they understand the terms and conditions, and then they sign. Okay. So we'll go over in other videos, like really deep into all of the different settings into memberships, all memberships, packages or subscriptions or on demand. For now, it'd be really cool if you guys like, subscribe, leave a comment. Let me know what you want to know more about in Momence. And I'm happy to, explain as much as I can. All right. See you on the next one, guys. Thank you.